Hey, this is a read aloud of the article, The Myth of the College Dropout by Jonathan Y. and Heiner Rindeman. This is for English 8, Week 4, as we're getting ready to finish up this quarter, talking about and pondering constructing a college experience and beginning to look ahead 4 years and think about what you want to do, what life is going to look like after high school. Um, as we read this, we're thinking about rhetorical analysis. So that means we're thinking about spam, speaker, in this case, author, purpose, the audience, and message. So what do we know so far? We know there are two authors of this piece. Purpose, the myth of the college dropout, that word myth, what connotation does that have? Like, that's implying, like, if we're saying the American dream or the American myth, as we talked about a few weeks ago, that's implying, like, my prediction is that they're saying something about college dropouts and they want to bust a myth about those people. So I'm thinking there's going to be a little bit of persuasion in this piece. We'll see. When Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg was asked to give this year's commencement address at Harvard, he asked for advice from Bill Gates. 2017. Zuckerberg said, "They know we didn't actually graduate, right?" To which Gates replied, "Oh, that is the best part. They actually give you a degree." This recent exchange between two famous Harvard dropouts might lead you to think college doesn't matter. Numerous media stories and even famous billionaires are glamorizing dropouts or encouraging kids to skip college entirely. Now, if you were wanting to go and read this article on your own, I might hit Control Click. I could open that link in a new tab and say, who's glamorizing that? Oh, like Time Magazine is like bringing up all these people who are famous for being college dropouts. Or what's this article about skipping college? Something in Newsweek, some sort of an op-ed piece showing the other side. Okay. While it's true there are successful college dropouts, statistically speaking, they are not the norm. As researchers in education and talent, we found that the vast majority of the country's success stories are college graduates, such as Cheryl Sandberg from Harvard, Jeff Bezos from Princeton, and Marissa Mayer from Stanford. If you're not familiar with who those people are, you could always like go and click the links. Cheryl Sandberg, her net worth is almost $2 billion. She is the COO of Facebook. Jeff Bezos is the CEO and founder of Amazon. His net worth is $196 billion. All right. And then Marissa Mayer, she is the CEO of Yahoo, worth $600 million. I'll show you this little video that they're referring to. Oh, it shows them together. It's silly. You can watch it if you want to. All right. So, where am I at with this so far in terms of rhetorical analysis? We've got our first appeal to ethos here as researchers in education and talent. So that means that these authors are bringing up their expertise or their credibility. They're not just random people who have this opinion and they're trying to defend themselves because they went to college and they want everybody to do what they did. But as we can see here, Jonathan Y is a research scientist at Duke. Duke is a really good university. And then this guy, Heiner Rinderman, is a professor of educational and developmental psychology at Chemnitz University of Technology. I'm not sure where that is. Kind of curious, but there we have it. That's an appeal to ethos, so that we say, oh, okay, there must be something to this because they conducted a bunch of research. Pathos so far? I don't know, not too much. Logos, we have this bit of information that Statistically speaking, successful college dropouts are not the norm, and the norm is that the vast majority of the country's success stories are college graduates. I'm going to hit Control Click, and I want to see what they're citing there. This is an academic article. That's why you wouldn't be able to see all of it, because a lot of times academic articles, this is behind a paywall. So you would have to subscribe or pay for it to access it. But we can see there is this study. Those are the same authors as the ones who have this article. This is published in a scholarly journal. And then we can see the abstract there about like all this. Like you can see, I don't know, there's math stuff here. They did a bunch of statistics that said, yeah, okay. All right, so we've got the next section. And at this point, when I'm reading an article, sometimes I want to like look ahead and be like, okay, there's one heading, the myth of the mega successful college dropout, a section, do elite schools matter? And then college matters. So let's see what their first section is after we've gotten through their intro. So we already know what the purpose is and really what the main message is of this. It's to say that, like, they're admitting counter argument, there are some successful college dropouts, but they want to inform us that statistically speaking, the vast majority of the most successful people in the country are indeed college graduates. By vast, that word vast, if I looked it up in the dictionary, means very great in size, amount, or extent. So that's significant. If I were to like use that quote as evidence, I would say something about that word vast, because they could say the majority, and that just means, yeah, 51% or more. But for them to choose that word vast majority is significant. That's saying that like a lot, very great majority. It's not even close. It's very clear that the vast majority of success stories are people who went to college. Okay? So, next section. In a recent study, it's linking to their study again, we investigated how many of the wealthiest and most influential people graduated college. We studied 11,745 US leaders, including CEOs, federal judges, politicians, multimillionaires and billionaires, business leaders, and the most globally powerful men and women. We also examined how many people graduated from an elite school. And if you're kind of like wondering, what does that mean? Like, what is an elite school? They have a link to something about their definition here. This is another article from this guy. So I would say that another appeal to ethos that I would use as paraphrased evidence for rhetorical analysis of this article is that their extensive use of hyperlinks that connect back to even more details from their various research projects really adds to their credibility, because they're showing like it's not just this article. They've conducted multiple studies looking into answering this big question as to like, is college necessary or at least extremely important if you want to find success in a career. All right, so I would also say that that adds to logos, because their argument is being backed up by these credible sources. How do I know they're credible? Because, for example, Taylor and Francis Online is a legit academic source. See, if I just click on the homepage, that's how I could check. It says search peer-reviewed journals and articles. So what that means is that's pretty much the exact opposite of social media and blogs. If I want to post something on social media, if I want to put a TikTok, I can do that right now. I could be making a TikTok while I'm making this video for y'all. Nobody has to see it. Bam, I'm published. It's there for everyone to see. This kind of publication that these two writers, who are making it very clear that they are academic scholars, is very different. Peer-reviewed means that they've conducted this research, they've written up the research into a report or an article, and then they've submitted it to sometimes multiple different academic journals or publications. Then there's a whole team of readers and editors that read their stuff, sent notes back to them. They made revisions and further edits. They sent it back to them. Maybe they had to revise again. And then finally, after what is usually months and sometimes years, their work was published. So that's what makes it so credible, believable. So back to the article. They studied over 11,000 US leaders. They also examined how many people graduated from an elite school. That's like Ivy League school, like Harvard, Princeton, schools that are really hard to get into, that say thousands and thousands of people apply, and there's only like this many spots available. Okay, you could also look at US news rankings. That's pretty interesting, but I'm going to move forward. And here's this really good chart here. So the myth of the successful dropout. So we've got the study, 11,745 successful individuals. And then we can see among federal judges, all of them have attended college. Among Forbes' powerful men, so in business, 100% have attended college. And then elite school, 85%. Among judges, you don't have to go to a really fancy school, but you definitely have to go to school. House members, that's as in the House of Representatives and Congress, how many of them went to college or no college / unknown? 1%. 1%. So if you want to be in Congress someday, unless you're so lucky that you're in that 1%, you got to go to college. Senators, 1%. We're going to look at it this way for a second. It's pretty cool. The New Republic, I don't know what that is. I think that's some sort of a business thing. 4%. Fortune 500 CEOs, only 6% didn't go to college. Forbes Powerful Women, only 7%. World Economic Forum attendees, that means people who are so important in business globally that they can get invited, invitation only, to this specific little cool meeting thing, 10%. Forbes billionaires, 11%. And 30 millionaires, 20% didn't go to college. So there you have that. That's the data. This is a strong appeal to logos, right? This is straight up numbers. We can see if you want to be successful in business or whatever, that's how many people went to college. So now they're summarizing this data that we see here. So they're interpreting it. We found about 94% of these US leaders attended college, and about 50% attended an elite school. Though almost everyone went to college, elite school attendance varied widely. For instance, only 20.6% of House members and 33.8% of 30 millionaires attended an elite school, but over 80% of Forbes' most powerful people did. For whatever reason, about twice as many senators as House members went to elite schools. If you're curious, like, what is this most powerful people list? You could take a look. These are the world's most powerful people. I don't really know how they determine that, but like if we look at it, it's pretty much like world leaders. Jeff Bezos, Pope Francis, Bill Gates, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, Narendra Modi, that's the president of India, Larry Page from Alphabet. Alphabet is the name of the corporation that has Google. Okay. Jerome Powell, he's the leader of the Federal Reserve. Emmanuel Macron, right? So presidents and then like just biggest business leaders and investors in the world. So among those people, the highest rollers, 80% went to elite schools. For comparison, based on census and college data, we estimate that only 2 to 5% of all US undergraduates went to one of the elite schools in our study. The people from our study attended elite schools at rates well above typical expectations. All right, so like a question we might have is again, like what is an elite school? Um, Schools that are consistently high on the US news rankings. You want to take a look at that? What are they? Among liberal arts colleges or colleges in general? We've got full ranking list. Princeton, Harvard, Columbia, MIT, Yale, Stanford, University of Chicago, University of Pennsylvania. That's where Angela Duckworth, who wrote that Grit, who did the Grit talk, is from. Caltech, Johns Hopkins, Northwestern, Duke, Dartmouth, Brown, Vanderbilt, Rice, Washington University in St. Louis, Cornell, University of Notre Dame, ooh, go Irish, University of California. There you have it. Those are right now ranked the 20 best colleges or the 20 best universities in the country. If you wanted to go to 25, then that would include Emory, Berkeley, Georgetown, University of Michigan, USC, and Carnegie Mellon. And say we would cut it off there. I think if you're below the top 25, you're probably not going to consider elite, but those are top 25 colleges. So that's what they're looking into for defining an elite school. So, do elite schools matter? We're into a new section now. So we see that elite schools are a big factor for certain things, like being the most powerful person, but otherwise for certain things, like being in the House of Representatives or being a federal judge, maybe it doesn't matter as much. So this year, elite schools saw an increase in applications and selectivity. Selectivity means like selective means it's like you're really choosy, kind of picky as to who you're going to choose. So like if 10,000 people apply, there's only 500 places. Research suggests that there is no difference in adult income between students who attended highly selective schools and students with similar SAT scores who attended less selective schools. At least for long-term earnings, where you go may not be critical as long as you attend and graduate. That's really cool, and that's really important information to show that according to the research that at least these two scholars have conducted right now and other research that they've looked into. Let's take a look. Right here, working paper series. This is from some other scholars from a couple years ago, and they did a bunch of numbers and crunch numbers. Wow, it's a 40-page research project. So according to that, you can make just as much money in the end. You can be pretty successful if you go to a state school or if you go to an elite school, no matter. All right. Yet, our data show that for students with talent and motivation to make it to the top of US society, an elite college might just help you get there, whether it's the networks you acquire or the brand on your resume. By networks, it means like the people you know. While looking at over 11,000 successful leaders, we rarely encountered people who came from extremely poor or disadvantaged backgrounds. Helping disadvantaged talented students enter elite schools could promote diversity among future leaders. So it was pretty rare for them to find those among those 11,000 like really successful world and national leaders. Not very many of them came from poor and disadvantaged backgrounds. So then that's getting into more research that we need to do more to make college and university studies affordable for people who don't have a lot of money. This is Princeton. It's beautiful. All right, college matters. This is the last section. Admittedly, the educational path of the cream of the crop may not apply to most people. So going to college may not be the right or even the best path for everyone. So this is like they're closing with a little bit of counter argument. However, if you're a student thinking about not going to college or considering dropping out, remember that even Gates and Zuckerberg got into college. Even if you're not aiming for mega success, doing the work to get into and graduate from college today may open important doors. Perhaps in the future, college may not be as important to employers, but for now, college dropouts who rule the world are rare exceptions, not the rule. So this is the counter argument. This is a good example. It's really interesting placement, but they're closing with the counter argument, admitting, right? You can see that's very clear using that transition. Admittedly, that path of getting to Harvard or Princeton or Yale or Notre Dame or whatever, that might not be for everyone. But when we're thinking about people who didn't graduate from college, such as Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg, they still worked hard enough and gained enough skills through high school that they were accepted to, and for a period of time, went to Harvard. That takes a lot of work. You can gain incredible amounts of knowledge, understanding, and skill in reading, writing, communication, science, technology, and mathematics and humanities if you really apply yourself in high school. So that's the point they're making to counter that counter argument. It's important to do the work all the way, at least through 12th grade, to open those doors so that you can do that reading that you may wish to do in other fields that might not require college, say music production, like being an esthetician, any number of things, going straight into the military, things like that. All right. So for now, college dropouts who rule the world are rare exceptions, not the rule. Ultimately, how do I assess this article? Going back to the top, I do think they successfully proved the point that they were trying to inform us of. I think it is generally somewhere between informative and persuasive, right? It's not like, oh, this is my opinion, but they are sharing this extensive research that it really is a myth that people can drop out of college and be super, super, super successful. Does it happen? Yes. It's about as common or less common than getting struck by lightning, right? Where is it? Like, where's a piece of evidence that I think is like best sums up the argument? I'm finding it in real time. While it's true that there are successful college dropouts, successfully speaking, statistically speaking, they are not the norm. All right, that's their message. They carried it through all the way, heavily relying on logos, logical appeals, right? They've got statistics in like a really cool sort of interactive format and numerous links to other citations, both to their research and other people's research. And it's easy to say that they strongly appeal to ethos, just even by putting these little like bios on the side so we can see that they are academic scholars, and then by linking to more of their extensive research in the area. So they are credible, they are scholars who are engaging in really nitty-gritty statistical research on the subject, and they are also very conversant or aware of other people's research on that matter. So successful? I think so. Hope this helps.